Well, hello and welcome to Pursuit of Purpose. I am your host, Indiana Tuggle. As you know, I am an author, a speaker, and a kingdom writing coach, helping you unleash the power of your pen by turning your testimony into a book, as well as heal from various traumas in your life through writing. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I bring various people that I've met on social media and or any other walks of life. I bring them on the show to help you to see that there are various ways in which God can use the pain that we've been through in our lives and turn that into purpose so that it can benefit not just yourself but others as well. And today is no different. Today I have with me in I like to say studio, but we know this is a podcast, so it's not a studio. I don't know what to call it right now. But today I have with me certified life purpose coach, speaker, and women's change agent Shelley Meche'tte. I love her name. And she is extremely passionate and dedicated to the empowerment of women through strategized personal and professional development. And she is the author of 70 Days of Happy. Life is Better When You Smile, and the founder of the women's organization, the PowHERful Woman. So help me welcome Shelley Meche'tte.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on this platform with you.
Thank you so much. And I love your name. And
Thank you.
So before we get into anything, why do you use Shelley Meche'tte and not your last name? Because it does have a nice ring to it. So,
there you go. You pretty much answered it right there. Shelley Meche'tte. It has a nice ring to it. And I prefer just for myself to keep my last name out of stuff. You know, you have the best of me. You have the first and the middle. You got 2/3. We good.
You say two out of three, not bad, huh?
Yeah, don't be greedy. Don't be greedy.
I know that's right. Well, Shelley, help us to understand who you are and what you came from. Tell us a little bit of your story.
Yes, I actually come from a single-family home, a single-parent home, I should say. My mother was a single parent. I had an absentee parent, and as I grew up, unfortunately, because of that absentee parent, I had some self-esteem issues, like a lot of young girls who grow up without a father or someone who's not a very good father figure for them. It was a very it was a love-hate relationship with myself because I had a mother who was very empowering and very encouraging and very loving, and then yet I felt like I was still yearning for something, you know, as far as the opposite sex was concerned. I came up in the time where the movie School Days was extremely, extremely popular. I don't know if you've heard of it, by Spike Lee. Mm-hmm. And at that time, it really became a big deal, and it probably always was, but I guess maybe because that was so prevalent at the time, it really was in my face, the whole colorism issue. And me coming from a background where I didn't have a father who poured into me, I didn't have a father in my life who let me know that no matter what, I was loved by him. I sought that out in other people who unfortunately they didn't care for my heart, but you not physically, but you abused my heart because you just used me, or you tore down my self-esteem, or like a gentleman who told me, I don't care how pretty you are, I'd never date you because you're not light. Things like that, which, you know, tore at my core because I began to believe that I didn't have anything to offer because of a certain shade, or because I, you know, don't fit into this little pattern. And that became my reality, and that began shaping some of my relational decisions that I made. And unfortunately, I ended up in a verbally abusive relationship because of that. The crazy thing about that is I didn't know that I was in an abusive relationship. I did not realize that until many years later.
Wow.
I thought abuse was hitting me, and nobody was ever going to put their hands on me. You know, you not going to put your hands on me. But I didn't realize that putting your hands on someone, that's down the line.
Right.
You've already been broken by then. You've already been conditioned by then. You've already been stripped by then. The only thing that I was missing was you hitting me, and when it began to become physical with you shoving me and pushing me and grabbing me, that's when my brain began to go, uh-oh, I think something is wrong. But by that time, rather, I had already been broken.
Wow.
I was already, yeah.
You've uncovered a lot, Shelley. You got to pause. Wait a minute. Let's back up. Now, when you mentioned your self-esteem issues and being a result of the absentee parent, did you always know that the self-esteem issues was a result of the childhood and not growing up with your father, or did you later find that out as you were going through your healing process?
No, I found that out later. What I knew, and I couldn't really put into words, but as a teenager, I knew that I was willing to accept less than. I couldn't format, I couldn't necessarily go, oh, you have low self-esteem. I didn't really connect it like that, but I knew that I was willing to accept less than because that's all that I could get. So you just take whatever comes your way. But it was love-hate because my mother was going, hey, you're amazing, you're this, you're that. But when I went outside, people were saying, you're really not this, or you're really not that, or you need to look like this, or you should be this particular, color. So I knew that I shouldn't expect anymore because you're dark, because you don't have curly hair, because you don't have pretty eyes. So I knew I shouldn't accept or expect anything, big, or I shouldn't expect for anybody to really like me because I'm really not attractive. So there has to be something that you want, because it can't be that you just want me because I don't fit into that. So, again, I couldn't put it into words, but I knew that I was willing to accept things that were beneath me.
Wow. And a lot of people, especially parents, they don't understand how their child grows up with low self-esteem because they were so loving. And my story was similar to that. My family was loving. I didn't get picked on, at home. It wasn't, and if I did, if they would say, fat or something like that, it was never, something that carried on day in or day out. And if it came out of somebody's mouth, somebody else was hitting them upside the head. So it was always that, that balance there. But then it was always something of, them telling me how pretty I was, and it was always, you my pretty fat chocolate baby. It was always that, so you heard the loving things. But when you go outside of the house, it is something different, because in our heads you think, but it's my family, they supposed to love on me. We expect that. We expect your family to love on you. You don't think that, oh, I'm privileged because my family loved you. You expect that. So when you go outside the house, you will expect that same love, and when you don't get it, it kind of shatters, that glass. It shatters that perception. It shatters that perception that you have of people, because inherently as a child, you grow up, you thinking everybody is great. That childlike, love of everybody. You think everybody is love, and everybody is going to love me like my mama loved me, like my brother loved me, like my cousins. You think everybody is going to be like that. But then when you walk out in the world and they start picking at the very thing that your family told you was beautiful, your skin color. For me, it was my weight, it was my skin color, it was my hair, it was all of that. When they start picking at all of that, and you like, well, my folks lied to me.
Right. And for me, because I have such a mixture, it's like I'm not sure what to believe, because, again, I had a father. What I learned from my father is that men lie, not people lie, but men lie. What I learned from my father is, even when they come to see you, there's an ulterior motive. And what I mean by that is, my father didn't come around very often, but when he did come around, you spent all of 2 minutes with me, and then you were in my mother's face. you know, for the rest of the night. So you weren't there for me. So when I became older, you know, and people were like, you're not this, you're not that, all you did was solidify what I couldn't put into words, but what had been poured into me by the man who should have loved me. And I'm not saying he didn't love me. That's not what I'm saying. But he didn't have the capability to give to me what I needed to help secure my esteem.
Wow. So tell us, Shelley, when did it begin to click? Because I'm one of those people who feel like the healing journey cannot begin until you actually look at yourself and say something is wrong. So when did it begin to click that something is wrong and I need to do something about it?
I think it really started to hit me when I moved out. I was my daughter, I think, was 1 or 2 when I moved out of the house. And when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had prayed and I said to the Lord, I said, you know what? I can't raise her to be the woman of God that I would like for her to be unless I am that. So I need you to guide me. I need you to help me. You know, I need to find out who I am in you so that I can be able to raise this girl. And so that she can have a better understanding of who she is. But she's never going to have that if I don't know anything. And during that time, it didn't happen at that particular time, but during that time, I had gone through a really bad breakup with her father that really, really crushed me. But all of those things began to break in order to build. It wasn't really until, let me see, it wasn't until, oh my goodness, maybe a few years, maybe my daughter was in school, and one day I was driving down the street, and I can't remember what triggered it, but I began, you know, just boo-hoo crying, and I don't even know how I got home. And I just began blurting out, you know, names, just saying, you know, I forgive you, I forgive you. And one of those people was my natural father. And I said, you know, I forgive you. I forgive you for what you did. I forgive you for not loving me the way I needed to be loved. And I forgive me for not understanding how to pick up those pieces before I continue to damage myself. Years went by again. I got married thinking that, you know, I was all good until I decided to stay home after my second daughter was born. And I found myself in the mirror boo-hoo crying and mentally going back to the brokenness, which was the abusive relationship and the isolation and abandonment from my father. It was then at 30-something that I said, who are you? Who are you? If I strip away every single one of your titles, who is this woman standing in front of me? And that was the first day that I stripped everything off of me and began my personal journey of becoming the woman that I was trying to be so that my daughter could be.
Right. Now, when you say you stripped everything off of you, tell us what that means, because sometimes people don't know what that means.
Yes, I understand. And I didn't know what it meant until I stood in the mirror because I thought that I had done this. And so what it meant is for me to look at myself and be honest with myself and say, you don't think you're cute. You don't think you're attractive. You don't think you have this to offer. Yes, on the outside, you're assertive and you're this, and you go for what you want. You are relationship goals. You are power goals. You are all that. But you don't even know. You don't know. What do you really like? Do you really like hamburgers, or did somebody just feed them to you so much until you thought that you did? What is it about you that you like about yourself? What don't you like about yourself? It's okay to have some things and say, I don't like this about myself, so now I'm going to work on that. But when you begin looking at yourself and you're just tearing yourself down without, you know, any reason, then that's the problem. And that's where I was. I was rehearsing what an abusive man told me, and I had never actually confronted those situations. I had just went on with life. So when I began to strip everything away and say, okay, you don't have this industry title anymore. Okay, you don't have that title anymore. Okay, you don't go into a job and get dressed up and, oh, I work for this place. You don't have any of that. So now what? And that was when I stripped myself and I found the one thing that I liked about myself at that time, and that was my smile. and I began to rebuild who I was based on the one thing that I liked about me.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is totally beautiful because I go through that a lot. I'm the one, I talk to myself in the mirror all the time. And one time I was writing a book, and I was saying, and some stuff was, and it's amazing how things will come out your mouth and you think that it's true about you, but then you have to analyze where it came from. And I was saying that to myself one time, and I was repeating like, you fat, you black, you ugly, nobody wants you, and this is and the other. And the Holy Ghost was like, who told you that? And I was like, what you mean? Who told me that? You know? And I'm like, this is what. And when I in answering it, I answered my own question, because God never asks us a question that He don't know the answer to. So I was like, well, folks been telling me that my whole life. And it was like, ding, 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 ding. Folks been telling you that your whole life. But what did I say? What did my words say about you? Let's get a new dialogue every time this come up, because it's not going to go away overnight. It's going to come up. But every time it comes up, I want you to say, when you keep hearing in your spirit, I'm ugly, nobody wants, I can't find a man. My word says that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. Keep saying that. Keep saying that. And you have to continue to walk in it and do it over and over and over in your head. So what was that road back to, I don't want to say the new Shelley, but to the Shelley that God created, because we have to get back to our creation.
Right. It was all like you just mentioned. It was always there. It was always in me. God was just waiting for me to agree with Him. So it was there, but the road to coming back was to finding that one little thing that I could stand on. Because people like to start at the top, and you want to just grab on to self-esteem and be like, okay, I'm the best this, that in the world. No, I didn't have that to hang on to. All I had to hang on to was I love my smile. That's it. I had nothing else. But I began to build off of that. So when the words would come back of, you're ugly, you're pathetic, nobody love you, I would say, they might not love me, but you can't argue with this pretty smile. You can't argue with this beautiful smile. I might be black and ugly. I'm not, but I might be black and ugly, but you can't argue with these pretty teeth. You can't never say that this smile isn't gorgeous, though that might be true in your world, but you can't say nothing about this. This smile knocks them dead, and I know it. And so just that little thing gave me enough strength to be like, you know what, not only is your smile all that, girl, look at your eyes. You don't have brown eyes, honey. You have slanted almond eyes, and they are gorgeous. That's right. Compliment yourself. If you can't find nobody to toot your own horn, clap for yourself. And I used to tell myself all the time, at some point, you have to realize that you're waiting for other people to clap for you. But one day you're going to look in the mirror and realize you got two hands. And you can clap for your doggone self. So you can clap. I began to look at myself and be like, girl, you is bad. You can write a great story. You're a wonderful fiction writer. Go on in there and sit down when you feel like life is rough. Go sit down and write a poem. Go sit down, and pick out something. I don't care to write for a living, but I do enjoy just writing sometimes. And so that was the other thing. You are good at this. Go sit down and cultivate that if you want to. You are an amazing friend. Who can you give a call today and just put some sunshine in your life? Because when you smile, they going to feel it, whether they in front of you or on the phone. It was picking out small things in order to stand on so that I could believe the next thing.
That's good right there, so that you can believe the next thing. Oh, my goodness, because the next thing is coming, and it's more to you, and God will continue to build you and build. And I just love how God just so patiently and compassionately, pours into us, little
Yes.
by little, day by day. All it takes is, like you said, find one thing.
Just
And
one.
it's kind of like when you come into the faith and people like, how do I be a Christian? And I got to follow all these rules. My pastor tell me, baby, pick you one scripture and you stand on that one till you
Just
need another.
one. Just
Like,
one.
pick you one.
We come in doing too much. We come in just
Yeah.
doing too much.
You try to
The
do too
basics.
much.
Do the
Yes.
one thing. Be the ruler over that, and then you'll experience many things that you get to be the ruler of. But rule over that one thing first.
Mm.
So, and that's where it comes from, being able to rule that one thing.
Absolutely. So when you begin to rebuild your own self-esteem, how did you begin to actually turn it into purpose?
Well, I took myself through a 90-day challenge online, which, normally, like I said, I am a happy person. I had a love-hate relationship, so I never was a quote-quote unhappy person. I did walk through a very serious bout of depression, and I did become suicidal, and so that was a period in my life. But as a person, as a whole, in general, I've always been a pretty happy person. But when I found this challenge, I thought, oh, that'd be fun to do a 90-day challenge. How great. Mind you, I had already walked through me trying to find who I was. After this, I decided, oh, hey, what if I were to put this into a book so that other people would be able to grab too? As I began to understand, who I was, I began to go, I bet you there's somebody else out there. I bet you there's another woman who's in her 30s, and she looked up one day, or in her 40s, and she looked up one day, and she was like, I have been of service to everybody else, and I don't know who I am. And so I began connecting with other women and helping them find their purpose. It dawned on me later, oh, my gosh, the purpose of me is to help others find purpose. My purpose is to help you find purpose. And it has been the most glorious, wonderful thing. It never gets old when I see that sparkle in a woman's eye. And she goes, oh, so you mean that this is what I was created to do? We take purpose and we put it on a scale that's so high to even we don't believe that it's achievable. Purpose is as simple as loving to bake and being able to service other people and open up and give them, a satisfaction through your cupcakes. That is purpose. And I love when women are able to ignite that, when I'm able just to offer, a little match fire, and they take it and just set it ablaze. I get tickled every single time.
That's beautiful. And it is sometimes it's so simple. A lot of times the process that we go through to on the road to wholeness ourselves is that very thing that God will flip and have you to use it to help others, because I think about it all the time how I didn't want to be a writer. I didn't think about no books. I went and got my degrees in social work and counseling. I wanted a nonprofit, and I was going to help the cheering. That's what I was going to do. But God had other plans. So when I was trying to heal and started writing, and God gave me that book, I thought I was just being obedient. I'm write this book because when I get to writing this book, I'm going to get this man I've been trying to get, because, God, you playing now. So I started writing this book, and then all of a sudden people start coming at me and seeing how this and that and the other, and God ended up showing me, the process of and people was, when people ask you questions a lot of times, of how you deal with things, a lot of times that in lies brings out your strategy, of how you can help others. Because somebody asked me, so how do you forgive? How did you forgive? And how did you even let it go? And how did you do this? And how did you? And in answering them, I was finding out, my own strategy, of stuff. And God was revealing my own thing. And that's how Right to Heal was birthed, and taking people through the healing process through writing and journaling. That's how it was birthed. And I was like, God, you set me up. this ain't what I had had planned, So a lot of times it's that thing, it's the thing that you do, in your
Yes.
quiet time or just to get through from one day to the next. We think it's many people think their purpose is a hobby, and they don't think about how it could be used to benefit others, and that it really could
Yes.
turn into a business. Which brings me to another thing. I see that you have her Everything is a Business workshop. Tell us about that.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. That is one of my favorite workshops, and the women love it. That came about, just as you said, because I began to look at things around me, because I believe I'm a serial entrepreneur sometimes. And so I look at things around me, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to do this. Oh, that would be great if I could grab that. How can we do this? But as I was doing that, I began to look at little things, and I was like, wow, if you just tweak this to that, you can actually turn this into a business. Or my kids would want some money, and I'd be like, okay, well, how can we work this, and how can we turn this into a business? What can we do to get some money out of this? And so what happened is I decided, I'm going to it started out as a vision party, because I'm very detailed when it comes to creating vision boards and things of that nature, and I just don't believe in slapping pictures up. So I said, I want to have a little vision party, but I really want women to see that there's more to it than you just cutting out stuff, putting things on there. There's a way for you to get all of these things, but you need to be able to make a purpose plan in order to do it. And so when I did it, I had some women say, well, this is what I enjoy doing, so I can't see how I could actually have a purpose in this. And I had so many different women come to me that when I created this quote vision party, it turned into them telling me their passions. And I began to lay out a plan for every single woman who was there to turn what they liked into a business.
Wow.
And that is what became my Everything is a Business. I don't care what you come to me with. I'll turn it into a business. You like spitting paper towels? We'll get a paper towel spitting business. There's a business.
So tell us one of those things that really had somebody in tears, that they really couldn't see it was a business. Tell us one of those things.
Oh, my goodness. I think I've had so many of these wonderful ladies. I had a lady come do a workshop, and it's not that she didn't know what she wanted to do, but she couldn't get it off the ground, I mean. And I think it may have been, if my memory is serving me correctly, I think it may have been something. I think it was her cooking. So I think what she wanted to do is she didn't know how she could really do anything with her cooking. It wasn't anything fabulous, and she was thinking she wanted to go into a restaurant and things of that nature. And she says, no, but I don't think that I can do that. I really don't think there's anything that I could do with my cooking. I don't want to be a restaurant person. I don't want to sell. I don't like those things. So there's really nothing that I could do with that. And so I said to her, well, if you don't want to sell, even though I can see a wonderful business, how about you doing little things online, like little dinner parties where you'll host something online, you'll have a friend over there, you'll cook them something, and then they can eat your meal. They can say how they like your meal, and if other people just like your meal, you're not quote selling, but if they like your meal, then you can package that up for them and you can drop that off, and you won't feel like you're selling anything. Well, anyway, her eyes began to open wide, because she's like, well, I wouldn't feel like I'm selling. If you come to me, then I'm not selling. And if we're online and people are just eating my food, I'm just having dinner with friends and they're just eating my food, and if you like it, then you'll buy it from me and I'll just go drop it off. I say yes, and that's a business. You just created a business. It's a business where they're going to come to you. If you don't want to, if you don't want to be out there selling, you don't have to. If you don't want to take it to the next level, you don't have to. But this is a way for you to start to see if you like it. Then we'll talk about, making sure you have paperwork and everything in line. That's not my expertise. I'd send you off to somebody else. But you do have a business in there without you having to go into a restaurant, without you having to go and sell to suppliers. Get online. Host little dinner parties. If people like what they see, tell them they could place an order through PayPal, drop that sucker off tomorrow. And And now we have Uber Eats. I'm like, look, I could have did that.
That is true. Give us another example of a
That was many years ago. That was many years ago that I told her that, and so I'm like, I could have been doing Uber Eats now.
Wow, that's amazing. And sometimes it's so simple, and we can be one-sided when it comes to our purpose, and we don't and we put our own selves in a box, so to speak, because of what all we've seen. You know, this is all I know. All I know is people who cook, they own restaurants, or they become a catering company, or create their own catering company. And I don't want to do that. And this is not. And so sometimes you do have to be open to creating a new path and being okay with being the first. You might be the first. And you might not be the first, because you're really not the first. You just think you are because you've never seen it. But once that thing click on the inside of you and you grab hold to it, it's kind of like going to buy a new car. You've been eyeing that car for a whole year. You finally get the money to go get it. And as soon as you drive off the lot, you almost run into 3 more just like it. You hadn't even seen it before.
All the time. All the time. Yes. You were asking about...
and that's kind of how purpose is.
Yes, it is. I had a young lady, and you were asking about another story, and I really love her story because the young lady who I was working with, she was a radio host. And so she had already gone, she had been on several shows. She had moved to Sacramento. She was on shows out there. So she was going down the path of, being in the broadcasting business. She had gone to school for that and all of that. And when we sat down together, she still wasn't sure, of where she was supposed to be, what it was that she was supposed to be doing. And so after we sat down and we talked about things and we went through, and I began to pull out some of the things that she really enjoyed, and I began to ask her questions, and we really began to wrap around her passion, she ended up saying, oh my gosh, it's really not radio. It's really me wanting to empower young girls so that they know that they can do things that they want to do. Well, anyway, with her radio knowledge, though, we turned that into an opportunity for her to host her own podcast, but to host it as an empowering example for other young ladies. And now she has her own podcast that she does. She is happy as I don't know what, and she spends time doing interviews of other women who are walking in purpose and who are changing, the world and changing their lives through purpose. So her radio background came in handy, but it wasn't what she was called to do. It wasn't what she wanted. But she was able to take those skills, find her passion, and now turn it into what it was she really was created to do in the first place. And that was empower young girls with her voice.
That's amazing. Yes, we just have to get out of our own way sometimes. And sometimes it's about being okay with talking to somebody about it. Because in today's day and age, we so tight-lipped about everything, and I'm like, some things you have to open up your mouth and say, because the person who needs to help you, they're not going to walk up to you and say, hey, I think I need to help you. What you need help with, they're going to gravitate to your voice. So you have to be willing to open up your mouth and share what your vision is. Even if you don't even know what it is fully, just begin to articulate it a little bit so that people can come and can help you clarify. Because sometimes you just need somebody else to help you clarify and simplify it, because we can overthink some stuff, especially as women.
That's what I love. That's why I became a life purpose coach, because sometimes it's right there. You just need the right direction. You just need the right guidance. You just need somebody to pull it out. Even with my own daughter, she's going to be going to school soon, and she began practicing braiding on her hair because she just didn't want to keep combing it. Well, as she began to do it, I said, well, you know what, you'll be going to college soon. I said, and, you might want to look at, you need a little pocket money. I said, a lot of the college kids, they're not going to be able to get home all the time, and you would be able to braid their hair. I'll be your guinea pig. Go ahead and do things for me and get it done. Well, anyway, she was laughing because later on I said to her, you do some amazing edges. I said, and you could make money just doing people edges. And she was laughing. She's like, nobody's going to pay me to do edges. I said, trust me, I can't do my edges as cute as you can. That's why I come to you. So if I come to you to get my edges laid really well after you braid it, somebody else will pay for you too. So she brushed it off, and I kid you not, maybe 2-3 weeks later, she comes and she shows me a picture of someone who does people's edges and charges them maybe like $7 just to lay their edges.
Mm.
And I said, I told you, everything is a business.
Right. Or at least a side hustle.
Yes.
To bring you in some extra money. And I think that's another barrier too, is because we shortchange ourselves so much, and we tell ourselves nobody's gonna pay for that, and you're like, yeah, they will. Maybe not your friends because they taking you for granted, but somebody will pay for it. You just have to find those people. And
yes.
you have to be fully convinced first before you're able to convince somebody else that you're worth it, and that your service is worth it. You have to at first be fully convinced. Once you fully convince yourself that this is who I am, this is who God created me to be, and I am a beast at this, I don't care how many other writing coaches there are at this. Indiana got this. I'm a beast at this. Once I'm fully convinced, then you can get somebody else to come on and jump on the bandwagon. But until you open your mouth and until you accept your own greatness and that there are some wonderful skills in you, nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to come.
Exactly. And then you have to also understand, which is, what I tell my clients is the minute that you decide what it is that you want to do, the minute that you find purpose and you begin to walk in purpose, I want you to understand everyone's not your cheerleader. So don't let that stop you from moving forward. You're going to run into people that are going to say, that's not really purpose, that's this or that's that. You've done the work. You know what you've been called to do. You have to be able to stand on that. There's going to be people that tell you, you'll never make money at this. You'll never make money at that. And maybe you won't be a millionaire, but we all don't need to be a millionaire. We want to be comfortable to be able to have a lifestyle where we can pay our bills and live comfortably. But don't let people talk you out of it. I tell them all the time, don't let people who have no dreams deter you from yours.
Absolutely.
Because they'll do it all the time. They have no dreams, so they want you to not dream with them. Don't do it.
And a lot of it is not, they don't mean to, but there is familiarity in your comfort zone. And so if you step outside the comfort zone, great. And I tell my favorite quote that I always say all the time, I say, greatness will either inspire greatness or expose weakness. So if you don't inspire them to do something, you're going to expose their weakness. So therefore, the light is going to shine on them. And so therefore, so they have to talk bad about you because they don't want to change themselves. So you just have to put your big girl undies on and say, you know what? New circle. I need a new circle.
Right.
Let me change my circle. Because
you have to be willing to be uncomfortable in order to walk in power. You have to. You have to. And the thing about it is when they can't see past circumstance, they don't want you to see past it. So they become a little angry and irritated when you find you and you decide to walk outside of the circle. Not only do they want to stay being comfortable, they want you to be comfortable with being comfortable. And so when you decide, I'm not comfortable in this anymore, then there's a problem. They want you to keep eating McDonald's with them. Can we move to Jack in the Box? I'm just asking. Can we go to Burger King? Can we do something different? But you just want to stay at McDonald's.
Right.
Can we get a chicken finger instead of a chicken nugget? It's okay. I promise.
Stop hanging with them friends that no matter what restaurant you go to, they order a burger. Listen,
Yes.
I'm going to need you to expand your taste bud,
Can we
widen your
expand it
palate
just
or
a little?
something, because we can't be friends if you scared to try
Just a
new food.
little.
We can't.
Can you add a cantaloupe to it? Is that okay? I'm not going to push you too hard, but can we just do a cantaloupe, a cherry, maybe? So yes, you have to understand that the journey that you take is yours, and the journey that you take a lot of times is alone until you meet up with somebody else. So when you step out, you're stepping out by yourself. And if you're not comfortable stepping out by yourself, then you're not ready to lead. And I'm not talking about lead somebody else. I'm just talking about lead you in what you are called to do. So if you're not willing and ready for rejection, if you're not willing and ready for tears, if you're not willing and ready to get left, you're not ready to walk in purpose, because walking in purpose entails all of those things.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the reason that you are alone is because you haven't fully embraced yourself. You know, and God is a God of order. He's not going to bring anybody into your circle when you still having an identity crisis.
Oh.
Because what's going to happen is anybody that come into your circle, you're going to change for them. Oh, they doing great. Let me switch over to what they doing. That looks fun. I can do that.
Yeah.
You're going to be changing every 6 months. Every time you get a new friend in your life, you're going to be changing careers. And you can't do that. So a lot of times you'll think that you're alone and you have nobody and I must be in the wrong place, but it's really because you haven't fully embraced your own identity. See, I'm preaching to myself now. You haven't embraced your own identity or accepted who God created you to be, so he can't bring you anybody else. Because God is a God of order and divine connections. When the timing is right, he's going to bring the right connections to you to push the vision forward. But you have to be fully convinced first.
You have to be. And sometimes God will he'll just separate you, even when you do know who you are. And, I had a period in life where he just separated me. It had nothing to do with me not knowing who I was. It had nothing to do with me not accepting. He just separated me. And just for this particular time, there was not going to be any outside. And I noticed that has happened with my daughter, too. And God told her, there's just this period in life where there's just not going to be another person. It's you and it's me. Right. And I still believe, though, like you're saying, though, even in that time, there's still some type of growth that you get out of that, even though it wasn't, the whole thing of I'm having an identity crisis. There's still some growth. I don't believe that God separates us for us not to have any type of growth. Absolutely. So I definitely still believe that God stretched me. I believe that God was showing me that whether I have, people, whether I don't have people, I still have peace. I still have him. The days when I had to lay out and cry and there was no one physically for me to call, then your presence came in heavy. Absolutely. And so now, probably any and everybody could probably walk out my life now. And, of course, yes, it'll hurt. And, I have a wonderful somber party. But at the end of the day, I'll still come back because I understand what it's like to just be me.
Absolutely.
Just me and him. That's it.
And I think that's a beautiful place for us to stop because we can go all night, honey. You see, Shelley, you are really good to talk to. It's good to talk to somebody about your dreams, about your goals, about your purpose, because sometimes you have to get it out. So how can we get in touch with you?
Yes, you can reach me on my website, and it's just my name. I'll spell it. It's Shelley. Meche'tte is MECHETTE. And so you can grab me on my website. I offer a Power to Purpose, where it's an opportunity for us to get together on a call and talk about your passion and your purpose and kind of begin to define that. And you walk away with one power move that I give you for you to begin walking in purpose. You can get that on my site. You can also reach me on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. under my name. I like to keep it simple.
Absolutely. I do too. Well, thank you so much, Shelley, for joining us on Pursuit of
Thank
Purpose today. I
you.
have
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed our conversation.
Me
And listeners,
too.
as always, you already know how to get in touch with me. You can contact me on my website at www.indianatuggle.com. Again, that's www.indianatuggle.com. There you can check out the books, the services, shop the T-shirts, and everything
I love
to
it.
help you feel connected with me. And until we meet again, always remember that there is purpose in your pain.